The priest cleared his throat and said, "Best man, please stand with the groom." And Hazel grabbed my sleeve and whispered, "That's your cue. Don't trip." I didn't trip, but I did spend the next 45 minutes standing 6 feet away from her, while she read a poem she'd written for her best friend's wedding, and trying very hard not to think about the fact that we were sharing a hotel room tonight, because the block rate had expired, and I'd been the one who forgot to book in time. 3 days earlier, Hazel had appeared at my apartment door holding a grocery bag, and wearing the expression she used when she had already made a decision and was informing me of it after the fact. She set the bag on my kitchen counter. Sourdough bread, sharp cheddar, the hot sauce I liked, the sparkling water she pretended she didn't like but always drank half of, and sat on the bar stool without being invited. "I need you to come to Quinn's wedding with me," she said. "I know. We talked about this. I need you to come as my date." I stopped slicing bread. "We didn't talk about this." She picked a thread off her sleeve. "Declan is going to be there." I set the knife down. Declan. The name alone had a weight to it. Hazel had dated him for 14 months, and when she ended it, she'd done the ending, which people always forgot. He hadn't gone quietly. He'd told mutual friends she was emotionally unavailable. He'd texted her 6 weeks later asking if she was sure. He had, most annoyingly, remained charming and composed and invited to things, because Quinn's fiancé had known Declan for years and didn't see the point of choosing sides over something that had resolved itself. "How long has he been coming?" I asked. "Since the engagement party." She looked at the counter. "I've been avoiding events, but I can't miss Quinn's wedding," I agreed. "You can't?" She looked up. So, "I'm not asking you to do anything weird," she said. "Just come, be there. Be present." I had known Hazel for 4 years, since we'd ended up at the same small table at a mutual friend's birthday dinner, and she'd spent 40 minutes arguing with me about whether a movie I liked had earned its ending. She was wrong about the movie. I never told her. I'd been thinking about telling her ever since. In those 4 years, I'd driven her to the airport at 5 in the morning, helped her move twice, sat with her in an urgent care waiting room for 3 hours when she thought she'd broken her finger, been her sounding board through 2 jobs, 1 bad sublease, and the full arc of the Declan situation. She had shown up the day after my mom's surgery with a casserole she did not know how to make, and a very honest confession that she'd followed the recipe exactly and it might be terrible. It wasn't terrible. People had been asking if we were together since the 2nd year. We always answered the same way. We were friends. Good friends, close friends. The kind of close that was its own category. I told her I'd come. Now the ceremony was over, and we were moving toward the reception hall, and Hazel was walking beside me with her hand in the crook of my elbow, because the path from the garden to the barn venue was uneven, and she was wearing heels she'd bought specifically for this, and wasn't fully confident in. "You did great up there," I said. I cried a little. It was appropriate. I specifically planned not to cry. "You wrote a poem about your best friend falling in love. What did you think was going to happen?" She tightened her grip on my arm and said nothing, which meant I was right and she knew it. The reception hall was a converted barn, exposed beams, Edison bulbs, round tables with wildflowers in mason jars. Hazel's name was paired with mine on the seating chart, which was not a surprise, but the placement was: front left table, 4 seats directly adjacent to the sweetheart table, intimate, visible. The other 2 seats belonged to Quinn's aunt and her husband, both of whom arrived late and left early to relieve a babysitter, which meant Hazel and I spent most of the reception dinner essentially alone at a table for 4, with an excellent view of the room, and an excellent view of Declan at table 7. He looked fine. That was the annoying part. He was at a round table with Quinn's fiancé's college friends, laughing at something, gesturing with his drink. He'd glanced over once when we walked in, just once. But once was enough for Hazel to notice that he'd noticed. She got quieter after that. Not obviously, just enough that I could tell. I moved the bread basket closer to her without asking because she ate bread when she was nervous and pretended she didn't. She took a piece without looking at me. "Thank you," she said very quietly. "For what?" "The bread." "I didn't do anything with the bread, you moved it." I looked at my menu. I wanted it closer to me. She almost smiled. Dinner moved the way wedding dinners do, slowly, with speeches interrupting the courses. Quinn's maid of honor went first, funny and warm. The best man went second, shorter than expected, which everyone appreciated. Then Quinn's father stood up and said 7 sentences that made half the room reach for their napkins, and I watched Hazel press her lips together and look very carefully at the centerpiece. I reached under the table and put my hand over hers. She turned it over and held on. Neither of us said anything. The father finished his toast. People applauded. Hazel let go and reached for her water glass, composed again by the time the lights shifted for the first dance. The trouble started, as trouble usually does. During the cocktail portion of the evening, when everyone moves around, and the seating chart stops meaning anything. I had gone to get us drinks. The bar was doing a signature cocktail, something with elderflower and grapefruit, and when I came back, Declan was standing at our table, not doing anything aggressive. Just standing there, glass in hand, talking to Hazel in that careful measured way he had. Calm. Deliberate. Like he was always the most reasonable person in the room. Hazel's posture had gone straight. I handed her the drink and stood close enough that the decision was visible. "Hey man," Declan said, easy and unbothered. "Good to see you." "You too," I said, because what else do you say? He looked at the two of us the way people look at math they're not sure adds up. Then he said to Hazel, "You look great," in a tone that wanted something back. Hazel smiled, the wrong smile, the one I'd learned to recognize. The one she used when she was fine and needed everyone to believe it. "Thanks," she said. "You too." He lingered. He told a story about a work trip that no one had asked about. He mentioned a restaurant that had just opened downtown in the way people mention things, when they want you to know their life is going well. Hazel asked one polite question. I refilled my drink when mine was still half full just to have somewhere to be for 30 seconds. After he left, she exhaled. "Sorry," she said. "You don't need to apologize. He's going to keep doing that." "I know." She turned toward the dance floor where Quinn and her new husband were moving through their second song. Her jaw was set. That particular tightness she got when she was deciding whether to feel something or manage it into something smaller. "Hey," I said. She looked at me. "You're not required to hold it together the whole night." Her expression shifted. "Just a little." "I'm fine, I know, but you don't have to be." She looked back at the dance floor. After a moment she said, "He always made me feel like my feelings were problems he was solving." Very calmly, very reasonably, she picked up her drink. "I don't miss him, I just hate that he still knows how to do it." I didn't say anything, she hadn't asked me to. "Quinn's happy," she said, and this time the smile was real. "Look at her." I looked. Quinn was laughing at something her husband had said. Her head tipped back, completely unself-conscious. "Yeah," I said. "That's the thing, right?" Hazel turned the glass in her hands. She just decided. She just picked the person and decided. The silence that followed had some weight to it. I let it sit. Then the DJ shifted tempo and Hazel's cousin appeared out of nowhere and pulled her toward the dance floor. And Hazel went, looking back at me once with an expression I filed away and didn't examine. The hotel was a 20-minute drive from the venue, which I made in the dark, while Hazel had her shoes off in the passenger seat, and her head tipped back against the headrest. She wasn't asleep. I knew because I could tell by her breathing. And also because every few minutes she'd say something. "The flowers were really good." "Yeah, Quinn cried during the vows." "Most people did, I didn't." "You cried during the poem." "That was before the vows." "That doesn't count as crying at the vows." "That's a very specific rule." She turned her head toward the window. "You've been quiet. It's quiet music. You're doing the thing where you're thinking about something." "I'm driving." "You do both." I didn't answer. Outside, the highway was mostly dark. The kind of flat Midwestern dark that makes the distance feel longer than it is. We'd booked a room at the hotel block 2 months ago. Standard double queen. 4 weeks before the wedding, the second queen became a king, and I'd gotten an email saying they'd upgraded us due to a block consolidation and hoped that was acceptable. I had replied that it was fine. I had not told Hazel. The room was fine. That was the problem. It was a nice hotel and the room was just nice, good linens, a window that looked out over a small lit courtyard, a desk with a lamp that made the light warm, one king bed, which looked very large and very obvious. Hazel set her bag down and looked at it for exactly 1 second too long. "The original reservation had 2 beds," I said. "I know." She turned and looked at me with an unreadable expression. "It's fine, Garrett. We're adults. I can ask the front desk if there's another room." At 11:30 on a Saturday during wedding season? She had a point. "I'll take the side by the bathroom," she said, and started unpacking her toiletry bag like the conversation was over. I took off my tie, draped it over the desk chair, looked at my shoes for a moment before setting them near the closet. The room had the particular hotel quiet that makes everything feel slightly more serious than it is. Hazel came out of the bathroom in a t-shirt and sleep shorts, her face clean, her hair in a loose knot. She'd looked like this at every apartment I'd ever visited, every road trip, every low-key Sunday afternoon. Comfortable, unposed, like she'd stopped editing herself years ago around me. That was the problem, really, not the room, not the bed, the fact that I was used to her. I changed and brushed my teeth and came back out to find her already sitting on top of the covers, scrolling her phone. "Your quiet thing is getting louder," she said without looking up. I laughed despite myself. "Go to sleep. It's midnight, not midnight. That's not a phrase, you know what I mean." I sat on my side and clicked off the lamp. The room went dark and then not quite dark as the courtyard light crept in around the curtains. "Tonight was good," Hazel said to the ceiling. "Minus the Declan portion." The Declan portion was short, it felt long, you handled it. She was quiet for a moment, then, I didn't want to handle it. I wanted to not have to. I turned my head toward her. I could see the shape of her profile in the low light. She was staring at the ceiling. There's a difference, she said, between being okay and not needing to prove it. Yeah, I said. There is. Another silence, the kind that has texture. Garrett, yeah. Why did you say yes when I asked you to come as my date? I'd been waiting for that question. Not here exactly, not tonight, but in the general vicinity of eventually. Because you asked. That's not an answer. Because you didn't want to go through it alone and I didn't want you to. She turned her head. I could feel it even without looking. Why didn't you want me to? The easy answer was that we were friends and that's what friends do. The easy answer was available and I'd been keeping it nearby for 4 years. Because I've been sitting with something for a while, I said, and I'm not sure tonight is the right time to say it. She was quiet long enough that I thought maybe she'd let me off the hook. I've spent a lot of tonight, she said carefully, watching Quinn choose someone, and watching how uncomplicated it looked. Not easy, just uncomplicated. Yeah, I've been doing this thing, she said, where I tell myself I'm protecting a good thing, not risking it. Being practical. My chest felt tight. But I think I've been protecting myself, she said, from admitting something I already know. I waited. You moved the bread, she said. Hazel, you knew which speech was going to make me cry before I knew. You picked the table that was farthest from the bar so I wouldn't have to walk past Declan to get a drink. You've been doing all of it all night and you didn't make it a thing and you're still not making it a thing right now and she stopped. I'm tired of not making it a thing. The room was very quiet. I'm not protecting anything, I said. I'm not trying to be careful. You matter to me in a way that doesn't fit in the word friendship anymore. And I've been calling it that because I thought the alternative would scare you. It does scare me. I know, but so does this. She gestured vaguely at the space between us, or maybe at the last 4 years. So does wasting it. I sat up slightly. So did she. I kissed someone 6 months ago, I said. Went on 3 dates, thought it might go somewhere. The whole time I kept thinking about whether you would find her funny, whether you'd like how she argued about things. I was constructing an entire hypothetical friendship between you two, instead of being present in an actual date. Hazel made a sound that was half laugh, half something else. That's when I knew I had a problem, I said. That's not a problem. Her voice was soft. That's just, you love the people who matter to you in the same way. I love you in a specific way, I said. That's the thing. The silence after that had a different quality. She didn't answer right away. A car moved through the parking lot outside, headlights sweeping the curtains briefly. Then quiet again. I missed you, she said, and she meant something particular by it. Not the missing when someone's on a trip. The other kind. The one that happens when someone's right there. I understood that. I'd felt it too. The particular ache of wanting something more from a conversation that was already good. So what do we do, she asked. Stop calling it something it isn't, I said. I think that's the first step. She laughed for real then. Quiet, a little undone. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple, no. But I'm more afraid of another 4 years of the word friendship than I am of whatever this becomes. She reached out in the dark and found my hand. Not reaching for it exactly. Just moving toward the same place at the same time. Her thumb pressed against my knuckles. I turned my hand over. We lay there like that for a while, not asleep, not talking, just holding on to the decision like it was still fragile. At some point she said, I owe you an apology. For what? For making you come be my fake date. You didn't make me. I knew you'd say yes, you always know. She squeezed my hand. I think I brought you because I wanted the version of me who was with you. Not just to show Declan something, but because I feel like myself when you're next to me. And I hadn't let myself think too hard about what that meant. I didn't say anything. I'd run out of the kind of words that helped. So instead, I shifted closer. And she didn't move away. And eventually the curtain light and the silence, and the quiet breathing sorted itself out into something that felt less like a beginning, and more like an arrival. In the morning, we went down for the hotel breakfast, because Hazel had spotted the waffle station the night before, and declared it non-negotiable. She made a Belgian waffle with too many strawberries, and half a cup of whipped cream while I watched and said nothing, and handed her the maple syrup before she had to ask. She looked up at that, then smiled, slow and specific, just for me. We drove home with the windows down a little despite the October chill because she liked the air, and I liked her having what she liked. She found a radio station playing old songs neither of us knew fully. And we filled in the words we didn't remember with words we made up, which was a thing we'd done on road trips for years without ever deciding to. 2 weeks later we were back at Quinn and her husband's place for a dinner that was small and low-key. Quinn's definition of low-key involved a charcuterie board the length of a coffee table, but the spirit was right. Hazel had texted Quinn after the wedding. Quinn's response, as reported to me, was a long string of increasingly emphatic emoji. And the words I literally knew it at the end. Declan wasn't there. He was at a thing in Denver someone mentioned. Nobody made it a moment. I sat next to Hazel at the table, and at one point she reached over and stole a piece of prosciutto off my plate in the middle of my sentence, and I paused and looked at her, and she chewed very innocently, and Quinn pointed at us with a breadstick. "There it is," that's the thing. "What thing?" Hazel said. "The thing where you two are completely unbothered by each other, and everyone else has to watch. We're at your dinner table. You've always been like this," I told Eric at the engagement party. I said those two have no idea. He said I was reading into it. Quinn turned to her husband. "I was not reading into it." Eric, to his credit, held up both hands in surrender. Hazel looked at me. I looked at her. The old instinct was there. Find the joke, deflect, laugh before anyone else can. We didn't do that. "You were not reading into it," Hazel said to Quinn. "You were correct." Quinn put down her breadstick. "Wait, really? Yes, since when?" Hazel tilted her head, thinking. "Depends who you ask." Quinn looked at me. "Longer than I told myself," I said. Quinn covered her face with both hands. Then she made a sound that was somewhere between screaming and crying and said, "I'm going to need a moment." The table waited. Then she lowered her hands and looked at Hazel very seriously. "He moved the breadbasket for you, didn't he, at the reception?" Hazel stared at her. "How did you?" "Because I watched him do it from the sweetheart table, and I thought, that man is in love with that woman, and they're going to make me wait another 3 years and I cannot." Everyone laughed. Hazel turned bright red and leaned her head briefly against my shoulder, hiding. I let her. Eventually she sat up straight and stole another piece of prosciutto and said, "Okay, someone changed the subject." The subject changed. The dinner went on. At one point I went to get more sparkling water from the kitchen, and Hazel came with me because she had questions about whether they had the lemon kind, and we ended up standing at the open fridge together for slightly too long. "You knew," she said quietly, "at the dinner, when I was about to disappear into that smile. I've seen that smile since the 2nd year. You never said anything. I didn't think it was mine to say." She looked at the inside of the refrigerator for another moment. Then she stepped closer and kissed me. Just once, quick and certain. Not a first kiss, that had been at the hotel in the dark, tentative and careful. This one was practice. The kind you do when you're getting used to something being real. She found the lemon sparkling water on the second shelf. We went back out to the table. Quinn noticed immediately. Because Quinn noticed everything. But she just smiled at her husband and passed the breadstick to her left. It was a Tuesday in late November when Hazel called me from a grocery store parking lot. Because she'd seen the cereal I always mocked her for buying, some aggressively optimistic blend of coconut flakes and dried mango. And she'd bought it anyway and needed me to know. "Why are you calling me from the parking lot?" I said. "Because I wanted to tell you right away. You could have texted. I wanted to hear if you laughed." I laughed. "There it is," she said. We talked for 11 minutes in a grocery store parking lot about nothing specific. And when she said she had to get home before the milk situation became a problem, she didn't say goodbye the way you say goodbye to a friend. She said it the way you say it when the person on the other end of the phone is the person you're going home to, even when they're not. Even when they're across town and you both have separate apartments. And it's a Tuesday and nothing remarkable is happening. She said my name like it was its own sentence. I sat with that for a minute after she hung up. Then I got up and did the rest of my evening, and it felt like the most ordinary thing in the world, which was exactly how I knew something had changed.